Okay, now it's time. So I think we should better start our session. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second session of training program on evaluation design, evaluation methods and approaches. And this training program is organized by Center for Evaluation and SLEvA, and in collaboration with UNICEF. And this webinar, the second session, is going to be very interesting because we are going to discuss on the M&E practices of government of Sri Lanka and international organizations and participants as well. And as you've seen in the banner today, we have two speakers for the session. We have Mr. Sivagnana Soti as our first speaker, and then we also have Rose from UNICEF as another second speaker for the session. And I hope all of you have joined in, logged in properly, and there is no technical error. Please, if there is any issues, please let us know. And Madhuka and our team are there to support you. And welcome again. And I am Rajini Kayastha. I'm Rajini Kayastha, and I work in UNICEF Regional Office for South Asia. And I'm glad to be monitoring this session. And we have some ground rules, regular ones, and I request all of you to keep your microphones muted. And if you wish, you can keep the video feed disabled as well. But even if it's on, we don't mind. And as usual, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box. We will address them during our Q&A session. Yes, questions, your comments, your reflection, all of them are most welcome. And if you have any concerns or if you have any feedback that you would like to give it to us, these are the email addresses that you can use to reach out to us even after the session. And I hear some sound, and may I request you to mute your microphone. And now, before we start our session, we have an icebreaker, and it is very short one. And here we are. So this is the word puzzle that you have to solve. On the right hand of the screen, you have the words that you have to find out in the puzzle. So how you can do it is on the top of your screen, you will see view option, right? On the middle of the screen, on the top of the screen. If you click there, I see some messages coming in. Let me check if someone has any issues regarding login. Okay. Yes, we will share the presentation through emails. And hello, good evening, everyone. And so here's the instruction, very easy. On the view option on the top of the screen, please click there. And then on the from the second last option, you will see a note. Click a note, and there will be a bar. The bar will appear, and click on draw. So you'll have if you click on draw, you'll be able to circle the words that you will find it here. So you just have 2 minutes, and please go ahead and circle the words that you can find. Yes, I can see already. Okay, the words are already coming in. And so yes, you can just use the note to do that. Okay, most of you have seen the development. Impartial, yes. Okay. Tools, good. Okay. Great. Okay, great. That's nice. And I again request you to put your microphone in mute. Okay, that's wonderful. We have, oh, great. Independence. And what else? Okay. Government. Okay, it's fun. Yes. Okay. Yes, the more words are coming in. Uh-huh. Oh, credible. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. This is such an interesting icebreaker, and I can already see that all of you are, just finding the words, and this is great. Okay, so I think just to keep the track of time, I would like to stop here. Thank you so much, and now I would like to just go to the other. Before I go, I would just like to clear all the drawings, and I would like to thank you so much. Now we will go to the, sorry, I am also here. Okay, so now we are in the important segment of the presentation, and so the first this in this segment we will be talking about the various practices of the like of various organization, including UN, and also we would like to hear from you. But before that, we have Mr. Velayuthan Sivagnana Soti with us, and he will be he will be telling us about presenting us the the M&E structure and architecture of government of Sri Lanka, and all the practices that are there regarding monitoring and evaluation. He will be running us through of that. But before I ask sir to do his presentation, I would like to okay. I would like to give a short introduction about him. As I'm sure Sivagnana Soti sir is not a new name for all of you, and he has already served as secretary in Ministry of National Policy, Economic Affairs, Resettlement and Rehabilitation, Northern Province Development and Youth Affairs, Government of Sri Lanka. Prior to that, he has served as secretary to various cabinet level ministries of Sri Lanka and Department of Foreign Aid and Budget Monitoring of the Ministry of Plan Implementation as the Director General. And he has also served as secretary to the Presidential Task Force on Northern and Eastern Provinces Development of Sri Lanka. And he led the institutionalization of the national evaluation system, managing for development results, and contributed in the formulation of national evaluation bill. He undertook many evaluations, including international evaluation on Paris Declaration initiated by OECD, and co-chaired the evaluation. We are very pleased to have him here, and just to let you know that he has also served as the vice chair of the Asia Pacific Community of Practice on Managing of Development Results, and also served as the co-chair of the Asia Pacific Capacity Building for Development Effectiveness. So welcome to the session. We are very glad that you were able to you actually gave time to us, and the floor is yours. So you are on mute. Can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you.
Sorry, you can hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Let me first of all thank UNICEF Center for Evaluation and SLEvA for organizing this program, and especially Rose, Asila, Rajini and Madhuka, government officials, many practitioners. Very good evening, everybody. Today's session is all about monitoring and evaluation practices in the government of Sri Lanka. Let me take you through the slides next. And the roadmap of the presentation will be M&E system, We will talk about monitoring arrangements. We will talk about the evaluation arrangements, how the donor-centric evaluation to joint evaluations to country evaluation. And also we will talk a little bit about the institutional architecture, the evaluation capacity development, and also finally look at the conclusions and way forward. Next, please. And when it comes to country-led monitoring and evaluation, as we know now, prior to 1990s, the monitoring and evaluation systems were predominantly monitoring. We were having more M than E. Only few evaluations were done by the research institutions such as Agrarian Research and Training Institution, HARTI, and also IPS, and also maybe MARGA and so on. Government sector outsourced some of the evaluation studies to research institutions, and therefore the evaluations were not formally institutionalized prior to 90s in a formal way, where it is not linked to the planning process, not linked to the policy making process, not linked to the budgeting and management process. However, there were a lot of emphasis on monitoring. The institutional architecture in Sri Lanka in 1990s were more on monitoring, with National Operations Room based on Malaysian model was established. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad as the Malaysian National Operations Room, where some of the government officials went and studied, and based on that an operations room was established, not only at the national level but also at the district and divisional level, and all projects were monitored based on the work plan, with more strongly on the financial progress, physical progress, results, and also it was more on problems and issues, and also the main focus was on troubleshooting and accelerating the implementation. Next, please. So the M system was more on troubleshooting and accelerated implementation. When it comes to monitoring, we have the national level, the President's office, where the President's review the progress once in 3 months, and also we had the Ministry of Finance, supported with the DPMM, Department of Project Management Monitoring, where financial and physical progress and results and issues are reported, and also they are supposed to report on a quarterly basis to the Cabinet of Ministers on all the line ministries, projects and programs. Similarly, the line ministries also had a strong monitoring system where they review the progress on a periodic basis, and basically troubleshooting and helping to resolve issues. And the project management units do also have their own continuous monitoring. And also when it comes to the district level, we have the district coordinating committees monitoring the progress of all development projects on a continuous basis. Similarly, at the subnational level, we have the provincial council. The deputy chief secretary planning is responsible for M&E functions, and the provincial progress review is headed by the chairman, under the chairmanship of the chief secretary of the province. And the monitoring mainly focuses on financial progress, physical progress, results, and also based on the troubleshooting and implementation issues, solving the problems, accelerating the implementation. Next, please. So today I am not going to talk too much about monitoring. This session I will be addressing more on the evaluation part. Evaluation has become a very, very important area in today's context. Evaluation is all about an in-depth analysis of achievements and results of a project, program, or policy or institution, but we are now focusing more on the projects and programs. We are trying to in an in-depth way analyze the projects and programs, what went well, what went wrong, why it went well and why it went wrong. So what works and what does not work, and why it works and why it does not work. Basically, the context within which it works, all are analyzed. And we, in an evaluation, look at the planning process. Planning and design part is looked, implementation part is looked, evaluation results part is also looked. So therefore, the evaluation covers the whole of cycle, the planning and design, the implementation, and also the post-implementation, which is the results phase of the project cycle. Also, the whole cycle is looked through the evaluation, and evaluation is for accountability, learning, accountability as well as learning. When I say accountability, it is for accountability for results. So today, the national evaluation system is strongly emphasized under the SDG through the UN resolution in 2015, where country-led national evaluation system is strongly advocated, and many countries are establishing country evaluation, country-led national evaluation systems. Today, SDG era, the development is defined in a different context. Those days, when Adam Smith period, development was defined as a wealth creation exercise. Today, development is not only wealth creation, but more about equity, gender equality, empowerment of women, environment, human rights, peace, climate change, governance. All these aspects are covered in a broader context in development. So when we today talk about development, it is not about wealth creation, but it is more about a holistic approach of climate change, environment, peace, and all aspects. Further, evaluation, the development is also today becoming more and more complex, because every goal, when you take the SDG goals, every goal is interdependent. There is a lot of synergies and trade-offs. When you try to accelerate the growth, you will have to be careful about the environment. When you try to accelerate growth through capital intensive method, you will have to be careful about the labor, unemployment, and other problems. So therefore, there are trade-offs. Therefore, you need to look at carefully the interdependencies. Therefore, evaluation has become a very important area where learning, real-time learning is important. The continuous feedback is important, and we need to adapt to the rapidly changing environment. Environment in a project context changes. The design changes. Sometimes situations change. So therefore, we may have to change our implementation methods. We may have to change certain program logic, program theory has to be changed. Certain components have to be added. Certain components have to be removed. So therefore, we need to look at it. So from a holistic point of view, evaluation looks at lessons and also learning, and also accountability, bit course corrections, and knowledge management. And formative evaluations look at program improvement, whereas summative evaluation looks at lessons learning. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. When it comes to evaluation system, in the past, we have been overly centered on donor-driven evaluation. The multilateral, bilateral donors, when they support foreign-funded projects, they only come out with evaluations, and they undertake the evaluation. And it is more of an accountability-oriented evaluation, and mainly meeting the requirements of project administration. So the countries do not take the evaluations very seriously, and they consider it as part of the administrative process. And they have a lot of emphasis on independence and credibility and impartiality, whereas very much less emphasis on use of evaluation. So the donor-centric evaluations were one-sided and not learning encouraging the use of learning, and therefore there was a shift in the learning process oriented accountability, where we are now looking at the joint evaluations and also collaborative evaluations. And now from the joint evaluations, donors started evaluating in a collaborative manner with the partner countries, and the partner countries and donors together evaluate the programs and projects, and therefore there was a lot of ownership, a lot of capacity building, and many donors, when they come to Sri Lanka, they come and ask partner countries also to take part in the evaluation. So the independence, credibility, objectivity, more importantly, the learning aspect has become more important. In Sri Lanka, in early 90s, the post-evaluation unit was established, and it was under the Ministry of Policy Planning, and on-the-job training was conducted, and evaluation information system was established. The training of evaluation was integrated into the Sri Lanka Institute for Development Administration as a curriculum, and then evaluation started functioning. And also the evaluation, although we call it an M&E unit, it was separated. The monitoring was separated from evaluation, in the sense that there were dedicated staff. Although the unit may be called monitoring and evaluation, we had a dedicated staff for evaluation, and they undertook evaluation. So therefore, evaluations are becoming more and more stronger, and the Ministry of Finance and the DPMM are involved in the evaluation. The line ministries, of course, do undertake a lot of evaluations for their own accountability, for their own learning. Research institutions are undertaking evaluations for their own learning, and also joint evaluations where partner countries also actively involved for the purpose of learning and accountability. Next, please. Next. So when it comes to institutionalization of evaluation, I think we are more concerned about the national evaluation policy. I think the policy is important and we have an approved policy in place. And very recently, the parliament also took a strong interest in making the evaluation policy not a circular, but through an act of parliament like in the USA. So they requested a select committee to study the evaluation, strengthen the evaluation. And in 2019, they developed a sort of a bill, a draft bill was developed, and there the National Evaluation Commission was to be established, where the Evaluation Commission was expected to undertake the standards, undertake the ethics, undertake the methodologies, and also the evaluation plan, and then make sure that the evaluations are taken seriously. And finally, they support to ensure that the Parliament is accountable and they read the evaluations, digest the evaluations, and it gets into the parliamentary accountability process. And also we have evaluation capacity development, where the SLEvA, Sri Lanka Institute for Development Administration, which is a training arm of the government, evaluation is considered as taken as an important module in that SLEvA. And also the Center for Evaluation as a postgraduate diploma in evaluation, which is also a very important milestone. And when it comes to Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Colombo, they also have institutionalized evaluation by training, by building courses, special modules on evaluation. Sri Lanka Evaluation Association also provides certificate courses for the communities of practice on evaluation. So in addition to that, the practitioner's guide on development evaluation has been developed recently with the USAID and under the ST-GAP project. And evaluation is strongly now being institutionalized and getting institutionalized in the government of Sri Lanka. More importantly, the National Planning Department, which has the project submission format, has incorporated evaluation lessons into their project submission. In that sense, that the evaluation is getting closely linked to the planning process through the project submission format. And also UNDP, UNICEF are all supporting to build capacity, and today's program is also a capacity building initiative. And also in an SDG era, the donors are strongly moving, next please, moving towards country-led evaluations. And in a country-led national evaluation context, every parties have a role to play. The government has a role to play in formulating policies, in formulating evaluation systems, in ensuring the evaluations are managed and conducted, commissioned and used by the concerned authorities like planning authorities, budgeting authorities and all. And also the parliamentarians have a role to make it a demand. There is a demand for evaluation. Parliamentarians have to create demand. They have to ask for evaluation. When they want to talk about performance of projects, they have to call for evaluation. So there is the demand has to come from the parliamentarians. And also evaluation consultants also need to be strengthened. They need to undertake evaluations. A lot of countries, even like South Africa, they said that they have a difficulty in undertaking evaluation because the consultants, although they have a good system, the consultants need to be strengthened. And also the National Evaluation Commission, which is also, though proposed, is also very important in the context that norms, standards, ethics, methodologies, evaluation plan, rolling plan, 3-year plan has to be set for evaluations. So therefore, evaluation to go forward also needs university and academic institutions to make sure the professionalization of the evaluation takes place. And the voluntary professional evaluation associations such as SLEvA and other organizations will have to advocate and promote evaluations. Auditor General in today's context is moving towards performance audit rather than compliance audit. Therefore, with the performance audit and value for money audit, they are more concerned about evaluations. And also CSOs, private sector, they are asking for advocacy, and practitioners, development partners, they are also supporting evaluations through technical support. So there is a need for demand, they support the demand for evaluation, support the supply of evaluation, and also ensure the use of evaluation. Use is very important. because end of the day, evaluations have to be integrated into the planning and budgeting and policy making process, and evaluation capacity development is also important. Next, please. And in a state, there are three separate functions: executive, judiciary, and legislature. The executive under the president, and the judiciary, the court systems, and the legislature, the parliamentary system. In South Africa, they have established their evaluations with the president's office, and it is under the executive. In other words, they want to make sure the evaluation is independent on one side, so that when it is under the president, he doesn't execute the projects and programs. So therefore, independence is there. At the same time, the learning aspect is also there, because when it is under the executive, the learning also takes place and the learning process takes place. When it comes to USA, the evaluation function has been established under the Government Accountability Office. We call it the Auditor General's Office. So the evaluation function is built into the Auditor General because for accountability. They are worried about performance accountability. So they want to make sure that the results are reported to the Parliament, discussed in the Parliament, debated in the Parliament. So the concern is more on the accountability. So one has to choose between the two models, whether would you like to have a model where executive has to have the evaluation function, or is it the legislature that should have the accountability oriented evaluation function? In my opinion, I personally prefer the learning function is more important in today's context. Therefore, the executive should hold the accountability, the learning part, and therefore the evaluation should be established in that sense with independence, credibility, impartiality, and free of bias, so that it will be under president or executive, it doesn't matter. But again, the learning takes place because it gets embedded, it gets integrated into the planning process, it gets integrated into the budgeting and policy making process, and finally it gets integrated into the program management process through the learning approach. I do not advocate for a completely parliamentary approach, but one may also look at that aspect, whether if the evaluations can be linked to the parliamentary process, then it becomes serving the both models, accountability as well as learning. So we may make sure that the evaluations are done, and finally it is submitted to the Auditor General, who can take it up, and also he can place it to the Committee on Public Enterprises and Committee on Public Accounts, so that the accountability function also served through the evaluation process. I think I have been given a 15 minutes time. So with that short time, I would like to present it. I am sorry if I have little gone fast. I am extremely sorry about it. Because of the timing, I have to do that. Thank you very much and appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was very insightful presentation. So thank you very much. And I really like your presentation. In a very nutshell, you actually took us in a journey of how the evaluation practice have changed from donor-led to the country-led, and how the joint evaluations are coming up. And it's very interesting to know about the evaluation architecture, national evaluation system, practices, and capacity building of government of Sri Lanka. And I especially like the emphasis of like really emphasizing on the fact that on the things like accountability of the results, and the emphasis on the learning function. Thank you so much. And now we have Rose. She will be running us through on the current practices of non-profit organization, and including UN. And so you all I've already given the introduction of Rose in the last webinar, and Rose is a multi-country evaluation specialist from UNICEF Regional Office of South Asia. And Rose, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rajni. Even though I'd like to just quickly correct that I am not going to talk about the NGO or the civil society. That's not my forte, because I'm more work for the government, my home government, Finland, and also with the UN. So I think there were some other interventions for the NGO functions. But anyways, moving forward, let me share my screen, and here we go. And then if I can check if we can see that everything is working. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, great. And mine will be very short. I think there was a lot of content in Mr. Sivananasaty's presentation, so I think I will keep mine very short, and hopefully we can have some productive and fruitful conversations still for this session. Rajni, can I just ask if there were some examples from the NGO side coming after me, right?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I will be very, very short. I think many of the elements here will sideline the question, the very important question of how to protect the independence of the evaluation function in the way that we organize it in an institutional or governmental or organizational architecture. So maybe a few words. The presentation is really not on the UN evaluation practice, because there are 47 specialized UN agencies, and UNICEF is of course one of those, and each of these agencies have a slightly different way of organizing their evaluation practices. I've worked with 3 UN agencies, one which has an independent office of evaluation. This was more of an international financial institution type UN agency. And then I've worked with a smaller UN agency, which really had what Mr. Sivananasaty also was noting, had a very sort of mixed position for M and E, and no clear separation of the M and the E just by sheer size of the organization. So, and now with UNICEF, we have again a different type of sort of architecture for organizing the evaluation practice. Regardless of the different ways of the UN family organizing the evaluation practice, we've all heard about the United Nations Evaluation Group, which is kind of sets the normative framework for the UN family on how the UN sort of, what are the norms and standards that the UN family kind of is bind with. And of course this is quite broadly used and accepted in the whole evaluation community as well. So here, we don't deep dive into these. These are the sort of basic UN norms and standards that the evaluation practices and functions adhere to in all the UN families. Also the competencies, and I think later in the training course, and especially in the face-to-face trainings, we will kind of deep dive a little bit more into some of these. But here also, just to note the kind of the different domains of the evaluation competencies, which the UN is also strengthening and promoting in all of its work, also with the work with the government side and its other partners. And then a little bit of the normative framework at UNICEF, and I hope this doesn't sound too much like UNICEF is run like a country. And I'm now happy that I didn't put the slides on the governance of the evaluation function. I see a lot of raised hands and comments coming in, but I'm not following those. So if there's anything, Rajni, is everything okay with the audio and everything?
Yes, everything is okay. Rose, please carry on.
Okay, good. So a few words on the evaluation practice at UNICEF. There is, first of all, of course, there in the normative framework, we have the new UNEG strategy. In fact, some of our members today might be very familiar with this. I'm not yet very familiar. This is quite new, but this UNEG strategy lays the vision and the mission for the United Nations Evaluation Group strategy. But at UNICEF, we have a new well, it's not any more new, but it was revised in 2018. And of course, like in the case of Sri Lanka, the evaluation policy kind of lays the foundation, the accountabilities and the the kind of the normative framework for the evaluation work at UNICEF. Then we have also the UNICEF regional evaluation strategy. So UNICEF has 7 regions, and each of those have a sort of evaluation strategy, which then lays out, for instance, what are the areas of capacity transfer and capacity sort of strengthening elements in the region. So in ours in South Asia, for instance, we have a high focus on supporting the South Asian governments in strengthening the evaluation capacities there. So that's part of our regional evaluation strategy. So a lot of our work planning also derives from this regional evaluation strategy. Then also at country level, all of the UNICEF countries, most of them, I would say probably all, have a standard operating procedure for evaluations, and this is then the kind of the country office level norms and standards for evaluations, but they all derive from the the higher level guidance and evaluative normative frameworks. So then evaluation resources, I'll try to be very quick, so we'll have lots of time for discussion. The evaluation policy sets out key accountabilities for the evaluation function at the decentralized structures. So here, going back to Mr. Sivananasoti's presentation, UNICEF has a model which has decentralized the evaluation functions all the way to the country office level. And in fact, at UNICEF, most of the evaluations, 80% or even more of the evaluations are carried out at the country office level. So then the regional offices like ourselves, we carry some regional evaluations, and then the HQ in New York, they have some global evaluations, and the evaluation policy stipulates like some accountabilities on, for instance, level 3 emergencies, that those are with the evaluation office at the headquarters. So we have at HQ, we have the staffing, we have dedicated evaluation staff members there and a director. Then we have regional office level, we have evaluation advisor and evaluation specialists and evaluation officer. And then at the country office level, depending on the country office size, like in Sri Lanka, we have an evaluation focal point and an M&E person. But that's to say on the kind of how UNICEF has organized the protection of the independence, it's very much related to the governance, because of course you would want the reporting lines to be such that you can separate, like Mr. Sivananasoti also mentioned, the programming from the actual evaluation function. So that's in UNICEF in the decentralized levels is often done by sheer reporting lines. So evaluation officer or evaluation staff will report directly to the representative rather than the head of programs or similar. So that's the attempt to kind of protect the independence.
Rose, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
A few more minutes, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, this is. I think this is the last thing. So, and then this is going back to the first session we had, where we had that discussion, interesting discussion on allocating the funds and how to find the funds for evaluation. So this is going a little bit back to that. At UNICEF, we have an organizational goal, or kind of a mandatory 1% of program expenditures should be allocated to evaluation. So this is what we have set as the minimum. And this is quite a good thumb rule, even though it's sometimes more, but sometimes, unfortunately, it could be less. But this is kind of in the evaluation policy set as the minimum expenditure for evaluations. Just to going back on how to safeguard. We can skip this one because this is really related to what Mr. Sivananasoti already discussed. We are very much moving towards joint evaluations, supporting the governments in evaluating sectoral programs, and also capacitating governments to do more evaluations in the kind of overall framework, SDG framework, and achieving the SDG goals. So this is just to, and we'll discuss this later, this is just to say that we don't usually anymore do this attribution evaluation where we would look at only what UNICEF has done, but now it's more and more the contribution together with all the other actors. What is the actual result? And this is a joint effort here. If you look at the what is the result, and this is very much also the direction of the joint evaluations and the SDG evaluations and so forth. So that's all from me for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much. And now we've come to Q&A session. And in this session, we would really like to encourage you to put forward your questions. If you want any of the, so in the panel, we have Sivagnana Soti sir, and Rose and Acela, and if you want any one of them to answer your question, please specify as well. And if you have any comments or reflection or experience, we welcome you all. And now this is the segment where we want you to share about your current practices in your respective organization. And for now, we've been in touch with some of the participants, and I would like to invite Miss Vanilla. If you are ready, would you like to share about the current practices that you have in your organization? And just 2 minutes for you. And at the meantime, while I also invite all of you to put forward your question in the chat box. Vanilla, if you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Rajani.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I was asked to share my experience in World Vision. I work as a mini specialist for World Vision Lanka. I would like to share 3 questions here. How do you evaluate your regular programs? Do you have an organizational policy or guideline that you follow? And how strictly do you have to abide with it? And structure of the evaluation team. So on these topics, I would like to share. Usually, World Vision's regular programs are sponsorship-funded programs. So it belongs 10 to 15 years. Those are the regular programs. In addition to that, World Vision also implement grant projects from number of donor agencies. Mainly, we have grant-funded projects from DFAT, DMZ, USAID, and EU-funded projects. Our evaluation approach is, we call it LEAP approach. Learning through evaluation with accountability and planning is World Vision's approach to designing, monitoring, and evaluation its programs. Currently, World Vision is using the 3rd edition of the LEAP approach, which is called LEAP 3, that brings a strong emphasis on the link between National Office strategy and programming. It enables NOS to ensure that a focused, relevant strategy is applied effectively through all programs. So we evaluate our regular programs at the end of our strategy cycle. At the same time, donor-funded projects are evaluated as per donor requirements. So our structure of our evaluation team is, we have 3 main teams. One team is looking after the sponsorship-funded projects, and other main team is looking after grants, and we also have a research team to meet the needs of the research aspects, cross-cutting issues, and things like that. Our evaluations are always been independent. Sometimes our support officers, they themselves wanted to facilitate the process. Donor-funded projects are normally based on their donor requirements. So that is also more independently, and we hire either local or international consultants to do it. So this is how our evaluation structure works in our organization. So if you, I couldn't hear.
Okay, I was actually thanking you, and also I also want to encourage participants to please put your questions here in the chat box. And if you have a question for Vanilla or any of the panel members, please go ahead. And so sorry, I have to cut you here because of the time constraint. And I would also like to call upon Sherlyn because she's also ready to share her experience and her part, her, how her uh, uh, organization actually, what kind of practices that they have. She's ready to share. And next we have Mohammed, who has raised the hand. And so now I would like to just open the floor for Sherlyn, and then we'll go to Mohammed. Thanks.
Thank you, Ranjani. Good evening to everyone. Actually, this presentation is supposed to be presented by Prabhat, but he got held up on a very important thing. So therefore, I'm presenting on behalf of him. So we have been asked to present our evaluation ways under 3 questions. How do we evaluate our regular programs? So when planning our program, we design log frame M&E plan along with the detailed indicator reference sheets. In M&E plan, we decide what are the methods of data collections we are going to use. And for the goal level indicators, we plan to conduct midterm and impact evaluations. And the evaluations are all pre-planned during the design stage, and budgets are allocated accordingly. Stroma Foundation, where I'm working, Stroma Foundation Sri Lanka implemented its program through up to now they have implemented through 3 strategic periods. So one is master plan, then seeds 1, seeds 2. That seeds stands for socio-economic empowerment for dignity and sustainability. So Stroma Foundation is a funding organization based on right-based approach, and we work through implementation partners in Sri Lanka. So after completing first year of the 5 years strategic period, we hired an external consultant and carried out the outcome evaluation. And based on the lessons learned, we have designed the second strategic plan. So whatever the gaps and recommendations are identified through the evaluation was used for the redesigning of the second next strategic plan. For example, the youth social participation in the community mechanism was identified as a gap through the evaluation. They were supposed to take over the second layer leadership at the community-based organization. As such, we had to design the program ensuring that youth are included in the CBOs, that is a community-based organization. Therefore, as a strategy, we developed a youth economic empowerment program which helped them to improve their income level. So we introduced group livelihoods. As for that, SF contributed half of the funds, and they have to get a loan from the CBOs for the balance. In order to do that, they need to have a membership in the CBOs. So this is the strategy we use to maneuver the youth into the CBOs. So the second question is, sorry.
Yeah.
Time limit? Have
yes.
I exceeded? Okay.
Yes. Sherlyn, thank you so much. And if there is anything, if you want to really highlight any point that like you really want to share with the.
So I would like to highlight one thing, that we have a team called Program Quality Assurance Team. So that's the main team. It consists of all the partners. So it's like a learning platform. So for the evaluation team, they are the main people who do the evaluation with the external consultant. So that is one of the highlight of the program, of our program. Thanks.
Thank you, Sherlyn. And just to let you know that she is from Storm Foundation. And now I see see Mohammed raising the hand. Would you like to come in, Mohammed?
Yes, hi everyone. Sorry, I won't take much time. Just I am working in the provincial planning sector at the Eastern Provincial Council, so I can just share what we are doing. As Sionyana Sodhi sir already mentioned, that at the provincial level, we are doing more of a monitoring than an evaluation, and there is no separate allocation for the evaluation. But we realize the importance of the evaluation. Problem is, what we are doing at the moment, most of the government projects, we are implementing the program, we see the progress, we see the output, but we don't know whether the desired results is achieved. So for example, in the Eastern Provincial Council, we are implementing more than 3,000 numbers of projects. So even we don't know which project has to be monitored or evaluated. So now we are going to establish one database, like a performance measure database. So in this database, I can just simply explain you, for example, in the agriculture sector. So we may provide the quality yield. It may be the one of the project. So here what we will look, what is their productivity or the production every year for the next 3 years. We will measure whether we can check whether the productivity is increased. If the productivity is not increased at there, it means the yield product, the provision of yield project, high yield project is not the successful one. Then we can ask the sector people or ask some expert here to check on those projects. What was the reason? So this is the one of the tool we are identifying. With the support of UNDP, we are going to establish such a system. So this is what
sorry, Mohammed,
yeah.
would you like to, if you have a question, would you like to come to the question or or your final say on your
okay, I just want to share it because as Sionyana sir is here, so I just want to say, because this is one of the part of his advice we are now implementing. So I just want to share it with the other government officials. What happened?
Thank you so much. I don't know whose screen is being shared right now. Can you please remove it? And okay, so we have some questions over here in the chat box, and I would like to start from here. There's a question from Tilakaran Ratna. Sorry, I'm very bad with pronouncing the name. So here's a question. With compared to donor-funded projects, locally funded projects have been paid less attention on evaluation. Do you agree? Any one of you would like to answer? Sir, would you like to answer on this? What's your opinion on this? Sir, your microphone is still in mute. I can unmute you if you want. Okay.
Thank you. That is a very important question. I think donor-funded projects do have provision for undertaking evaluation. There is funding arrangements. When it comes to evaluation, there is a provision in the donor-funded project for midterm evaluations and also ex-post evaluation. Sometimes even for evaluability assessment also, they have provisions. So therefore, when it comes to post-evaluation, sometimes the next phase of the project has funding for the previous project what has to be evaluated. So there is a funding already built into the program and a project in a donor-funded project. When it comes to locally funded projects, when countries are moving towards institutionalization of evaluation and monitoring is predominantly dominating, so there is very less attention on evaluation. But however, I don't say in Sri Lanka totally we have ignored local funded projects for evaluation. I can, to my memory, it comes to me that the SME projects were evaluated in Sri Lanka. They were funded by locally funded projects. The housing projects were evaluated by Sri Lanka, and also the SME loans were funded by, released by Sri Lankan government was evaluated. So I agree with the statement that locally funded projects are not that seriously evaluated. So there is a need to strengthen our evaluation system. Maybe the policy has to be very strongly operationalized. Although we have a policy, it has to be now, we may have to start executing the policy, and also governments do have fiscal space is limited. So they always try to manage the fiscal pace with priority investment. They sometimes put the evaluation to a lower priority because of lack of understanding. I think these awareness, capacity building, knowledge sharing will help them to create more understanding and enable them to give high priority to the evaluation.
Mm-hmm. So we have one more question over here. It's from Amal, and his actually, others can access, and especially the quality evaluation report that especially from the government intervention. Is there a common database that others can access, especially for evaluation reports?
Yes, in 1994, when evaluations was established, we had something called an evaluation information system was built in, where all the evaluations, irrespective of whether it is done by the government or donor, all are synthesized, summarized, and the full report is also placed in the evaluation system. And also the summary and the synthesis was also fed into the evaluation system. And in every project, we have the overall assessment, key issues, lessons learned, follow-up actions, and recommendations, which are placed in the evaluation information system. But unfortunately, that system is with the change of institutional arrangement, that has not been continuously updated, and it is important to now look at that and strengthen that part, which is a very important piece when it comes to feedback and utilization.
Thank you, sir. And we have another question for you. I see Rupa also sharing her opinion on the previous questions. And also here's the one question for you, sir, from Dr. Siraj. And he basically says, National Evaluation Policy of Sri Lanka 2018 was launched. And in this current context, how this evaluation is going to be implemented at various levels?
Yeah, the national evaluation policy has already been in place. And also as a follow-up to the national evaluation policy, the parliamentarians also in 2019 took a great initiative to convert the policy into an act of parliament. Because when it is issued through a circular, sometimes with the various changes that are happening, circulars may be implemented, may be taken seriously, sometimes they are given low priority, but when it is through an act of parliament, it becomes very strong. So therefore, in 2019, they took an initiative to bring it through an act of parliament, and currently a bill is in a draft form, which captures the evaluation from an independent perspective and also from an accountability and learning perspective. I think the evaluation bill is trying to establish a national evaluation commission, which will set out the criteria for evaluation of locally funded projects, whether what type of quality standards need to be met, what type of ethics need to be met, what types of norms and standards have to be met. I think when that process is in place, there will be a lot of gaps that will be cleared through that process.
Thank you, sir. And we have a question from Immaculate, and she's asking how the typical development project evaluation will be different from the evaluation of peace building project. Rose, would you like to answer that, or Asela, any one of you, please feel free to answer this question.
Do we mean with the question a development?
How development project evaluation is different from peace building project?
In the from the evaluation sense?
Yeah, from the evaluation point of view, yes.
Well, I don't know, maybe others can also input, but basically the evaluation principles should be the same. But I think the scope of the evaluation, of course, is always, the objectives of the evaluation are linked to the scope of the evaluation. So it depends on what we would like to learn and measure with the evaluation. So I think it doesn't matter if it's what is the intervention. The evaluation principles would be the same, and then you would choose from the evaluation principles those that you use for evaluating that. It could be if we want to know about the relevance, or it could be what we want to know about the efficiencies or the effectiveness. So that depends. So that's determined by the scope of the evaluation, but I think the principles would be the same.
Okay, thank you, Rose. So we actually, it's 7:30, and if you don't mind, can we add another 5 minutes to the session? And so I actually see a comment from Amila, and she has a very good point. Amila, would you like to come in and try and just say what you're trying to? You can please put forward your opinion. Please feel free to open your mic and speak. Okay, yeah, okay, so I think I better read out her comment. Okay, yeah.
Yes, I am from Provincial Council. Actually, now we are doing in many of the projects. We are just before starting to implement the project, we are doing project appraisal mainly, and then we are doing normal project monitoring and evaluation and project reviewing. But I need to highlight here, we don't have such project after complete project. There is no method to evaluate this project after completion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you. So I understand that the project after the completion of the project, the end of project evaluation is missing. That's what you were trying to say, I guess, because there's a project appraisal happening, monitoring happening, auditing happening, and these things are not, same as evaluation. An evaluation where we look for the results and we measure the results and we see the impact. And thank you. Actually, this is this is something that's happening in many of the projects. And so would you like to comment on this? Anything on this?
Yes, yeah, appraisal is done at the time when the project is prepared to see whether is it a bankable project and a viable project to get it funded. So therefore, appraisal sometimes is called an ex-ante evaluation. Also, the OECD does not want it to be named as evaluation. They say evaluation is either ongoing or completed projects and programs. So appraisal is in that sense separated, but academically, they sometimes call it an ex-ante evaluation. When it comes to the other evaluation is the ongoing evaluation, midterm evaluation, where you try to make improvements to the program by learning from the planning and design and implementation, and then what challenges are there, and you make modifications and improvement. When it comes to end of program evaluation, you do after the project is completed, a project completion report, and then you try to evaluate. And then the ex post evaluation is also there. After 2 to 3 years after the project is completed, you want to see whether the project has really given the expected benefits, whether the real benefits and objectives have been achieved, what outcomes are realized, what is it sustainable. You are looking from a DAC, OECD DAC criteria, the relevance, efficiency, effectiveness, impact, sustainability, and the coherence part. So therefore, this whole evaluation ex post is trying to learn from the mistakes and also try to see how these mistakes can be future avoided. They always, there is a saying to say that you can make mistakes in projects, it's okay. But if you fail to understand what is already evaluated, and if there is a lessons learned, and if you have failed to integrate that lesson into the planning process, you will be making a serious error, and therefore you should be penalized. There are countries which penalize not for mistakes, but if you fail to learn from the past mistakes and if you fail to integrate them into the planning process, then you are making a serious mistake. So ex post evaluation is also important. In today's context, even impact evaluation is also getting very important. The 3IE, which is International Initiative for Impact Evaluation, and various impacts, long-term results, long-term impacts are also looked through the impact evaluation. So I think ex post and impact are equally important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And there's another question for you, and this is from Karuna, and she wants to. This is about the National Evaluation Bill. She's asking if evaluation responsibility is assigned under executive or parliament. Yeah, which one is it, sir? Is it under executive or parliament? That's her question.
This National Evaluation Commission is trying to be little independent, but at the same time, evaluation will be undertaken by the government ministries, the executive. So therefore, the oversight function of the evaluation will be vested with National Evaluation Commission, which will also make use of the evaluation reports for the purpose of supporting them in the parliament, so that the parliamentarians are kept informed, debated, discussed on performance audit part or performance assessment part, so that the accountability for results is also assured. So it will be basically trying to achieve the dual objective. One is the learning objective from an executive side, where you make sure that the line ministries implement. So you have a national evaluation plan, which will be a rolling plan for 3 years. And also the provincial level, they will have a 3-year rolling plan. Ministries will have their own evaluation plan. So you know what within the, for the next 3 years, what type of evaluations you will undertake. So those selection of projects, what are the criteria to be used? So maybe the strategic projects, maybe projects of a public interest, maybe projects of a problem nature, maybe projects of a replicable nature. Those criteria and guidelines will be set by the National Evaluation Commission, which will be an oversight arm, and it will set not only that, but also standards, norms, ethics, and principles and criteria and methodologies and certain advocacy and sort of, guidelines, and oversee that the evaluations are of a quality nature. So it is a sort of a quality assurance mechanism, I would say. So the both objectives are achieved through the current bill which is proposed.
Thank you, sir. And here we have Subhashini, and she has a very interesting point that she has made. Subhashini, actually we don't have time. We have a lot of questions coming in, and basically the point that she's trying to highlight over here is, there is a need to really build the capacity of local evaluators, and in most of the cases, as per her experience, there is very less difference between the final product of the international consultant and the local consultant. And she's really highlighting on the fact that there is a need for the capacity building for the local evaluators. Thank you, Subhashini, for your comment. And I see another question over here. It's from Upala, and we heard about common country analysis for SDG, MTR for SDGs. What would be the government role or involvement in this exercise, and any country experience from any other country? There's this question from Opala, sir, for you.
Yeah, when it comes to Sustainable Development Goal Framework, I think the countries have already incorporated them into the National Development Framework. In Sri Lanka, we have the Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor, which is the National Development Plan of the government. It already captured the SDGs as an important fundamental principle and concept in the whole National Development Plan. So therefore, any projects and programs that ministries are developing will have to be aligned to the National Development Plan, in the sense that it has to be aligned to the SDG goals as well. So therefore, Sri Lanka adopts the formal process like any other countries, where the SDGs are integrated and internalized into the government's National Development Framework.
Thank you, sir. And Now, actually, looking at the time, there are many comments and questions coming in, but I really want to thank all of you. It's very interesting, and in fact, I would like to ask Madhuka to compile all of these questions and comments that are coming in. Thank you so much. And now, looking at the time, I would like to wrap up the session, and really want to thank you, sir, for giving your time. And it's really insightful that what you've presented, and it's a learning for all of us. And thank you, Rose, for your presentation, and thank you all the team members for really working hard for this second session. And most of all, I would like to thank all the participants for your active participation. And so we have another session coming next week. That is the webinar number 3. It's on September 29th, and Madhuka will be in touch with you with the time and the link and everything. Thank you so much for your participation. And yes, we end our session over here. Thank you so much.